Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So today we're going to look at how the same people who are trying to save the world, telling us that we need to stop eating meat, need to stop traveling on holidays by airplane, are the same people who've brought us over a century of war and inflation through their fiat currency monetary system. It's not even a monetary system anymore. It's a credit-based system. If it was a real monetary system, we'd probably have a bit more sovereignty and independence, because they wouldn't be able to finance these crazy operations as they do, because gold and silver are finite and they can't spend a finite amount of gold and silver. But that's the way it's been. So yeah, the same people who are have been in Scotland, wherever they are over there, Glasgow, preaching to the world. Yes, they are the people in charge. They are the people who were represented at Jekyll Island in 1910 when they drew up the blueprint for the Federal Reserve. They're the same people who created the UN. And if you don't believe me, just listen quickly to this clip here. This is from the UN multimedia.org website.
The future of this country and the lives of our children and our children's children are interwoven with the success of the United Nations. In it lies the hope of the people of the world. My father considers it a privilege to have had a part in the development of its permanent home. I'm glad to hand you, Mr. Lee, my father's check.
Thank you, Mr. Rockefeller.
So yes, that was John D. Rockefeller III, a philanthropist, right? We've got a lot of those today still, philanthropists. And he was presenting a check to the head of the UN, $8.5 million. That was back in 1947. That was, I would say, the equivalent of $500 million in gold terms. And to build the headquarters for the United Nations. So people need to wake up. United Nations, COP26, it's all part of the same group. WHO, United Nations. I will probably maybe get in trouble for this video, but I'm trying to be careful with my wording, and I don't need to say any more. But so these are the same people who own the central banks, run the central banks. They've taken Europe. First, they took Europe off sound money with the outbreak of World War I, another one of their crises. And yeah, Europe was a mess for up until the late 40s, early 50s, 2 world wars, a lot of misery, destruction. America benefited from that. America, though, was taken off a domestic gold standard, but it still was a very strong economy. It benefited a lot from the 2 world wars. And now they're doing the same thing to America. They're trying to destroy America like they destroyed Europe. And what's their end game? I guess it's to control everyone, to consolidate power and wealth. And that's why it's so important to say no to what's going on, not just in terms of saving the planet. And I have to say that I think it's important to keep the environment clean. Yeah, I was always taught when I grew up as a child, never to litter and things like that. I know it's a lot more than just littering, but what these people are proposing, and you look at who they've put in charge of this, a guy by the name of Mark Carney. He's a dual nationality guy, Canadian, British. He's a Goldman Sachs alumnus, of course, like Mario Draghi is, Goldman Sachs alumnus. The guy who also ran the ECB, the guy who's running Italy now. Of course, the Biden administration, even the Trump administration, always a lot of bankers around them, right? But Mark Carney is saying now that he has a coalition that has committed up to $130 trillion private sector funds committed to hitting net zero, this mad goal of net zero carbon. And do you think they're doing this? The Rockefellers, the Gates, the Bezos, the people with most of the wealth in the world, do you think they're doing this because they feel bad about you and they want to help you? No, it's because they want even more of the world's wealth. They want even more control. They want to make even more profits. So it's hard because a lot of people buy into this, of course, and they've divided us as well. People who see things as I do and people who see things the other way. But the only thing we can do is try to give people the information, and they'll have to do their own due diligence, their own homework, and decide for themselves. But yeah, yesterday my wife got a call from the lady that runs a care agency, because my mother-in-law, she has dementia or Alzheimer's. She's 89. She's still at home. So we've arranged for her to have carers. It's been for over a year now. She has carers coming in 3 times a day to look after her. So the lady who runs the care agency, she doesn't work as a carer, but she called my wife yesterday. And the lady who runs the agency said to my wife, "I'm at your mom's home." And my wife said, "What are you doing there? You run the agency." And she said, "Well, we're short-staffed. People have walked out. A lot of the carers have walked out. You're probably figuring out why, right? I think from November, the UK government requires anyone working for a care agency or as a carer has to have the, you know what, double. So that's the hope we've got, just saying no. So I thought that was interesting. That goes to show it's not only happening in the US, I think it's happening everywhere else, that we just say no, and we're willing to go through the difficulty because these carers are probably going to lose their jobs. So a lot of us that have the luxury to be here talking about these things, being on YouTube, and you as well, some of you who are the viewers are comfortable. We have to, we have to keep going. We have to fight. We can't let the bad people win, and we got to keep exposing them. It's literally the same people. People need to wake up. The people who have been giving us a century of inflation and war are trying to save the planet. Does that really make sense? Wars that killed hundreds of millions of people, wars that led to misery, to revolutions. These are the same people who are trying to bring in a fourth industrial revolution and reset the world. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is to keep trying to inform people, and yes, hopefully more and more people will wake up. We are a lot more than they are. So with that, let's quickly look at where the markets are this morning. It's 8:25 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold at 1782. That's down just over $5. Range has been fairly wide. Recently, the overnight ranges haven't been that wide, but it's been 1778 to 1795. Silver is actually up 3 cents 2356. The Dow future is down 8 points, 36,050. So yeah, the stock markets are making new all-time highs in dollars. That's what we need to consider, right? But since 2000 or late 1999, it's been in a bear market versus real money. You just have to look at the Dow Gold ratio. So yeah, we might be inflating away versus the confetti currency, but versus real money, it's actually hasn't been doing well for decades, I would say. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say here, we could go anywhere because the dollar is becoming so worthless that it doesn't really matter where the Dow is. And you might say, well, how come gold and silver are not, how come the dollar's not dropping versus gold and silver if the dollar is becoming so worthless? Well, that's because I think the powers that be are trying to keep this thing going because they need to bring in this fourth industrial revolution, and they need to have the wherewithal, but we'll have to see how it goes. Anyway, the S&P is down a point, and the NASDAQ is up 9 points. To the currencies, looks like the currencies are pretty stable this morning. They're unchanged overnight. The dollar, though, is down a little bit versus the yuan at 639.64. I won't go through the euro, the pound, and the yen because they're, as I said, basically unchanged. Let's have a look at the other side of the world. We've got Aussie dollar up 0.25%, 74.48. We've got the Canadian dollar unchanged. And the Kiwi dollar is up just over 1/3% at 71.35. To the commodities, and the commodities are a very important indicator as to the health of the dollar. WTI crude is lower this morning, is down almost 2%, 1.75% at 81.70. Is the bull market in crude oil over? No, I think it's far from over. But as I've said many times, these markets don't go up and down in a straight line. High-grade copper is up 2% at 442. And natural gas is picking back up. Natural gas is at 556. It's unchanged, but it's up from around 520 a few days ago. What about the bond markets? I saw that Italy yesterday, their bond market, which was selling off. Like sold off heavily last Friday and in the beginning of the week on Monday. Yesterday had a huge up day in terms of prices. The yields were brought back down. The 10-year yield was down like 15 basis points. You can bet there was intervention probably from the ECB to keep Italian bond yields under control. And why would I say that? Well, we've got the Prime Minister of Italy now, was president of the ECB up until recently. And you've got Christine Lagarde at the ECB. So I wouldn't put it past having the Prime Minister of Italy, not the finance minister, call the president of the ECB and say we need to keep these yields down, because you can see by this chart, we were breaking through a key level there around 116 in the Italian 10-year yield. And yesterday, out of nowhere, we just dropped massively the yield. That means someone came in and bought those bonds. And it's not just important for Italy, the fact that they need to keep these yields down, but also for all the other countries, because Italy, if the Italian bonds start dropping in price and yields start spiking, it's going to create a contagion effect. But we need to keep an eye on these. These people are not invincible, I would say. So what about the 10-year yield? Well, 10-year yield is coming off as well. It's almost back to 150. It's at 152. Today we've got the FOMC announcement at 2 p.m. Eastern. I think it's already priced in the market that they're going to announce their tapering. It will be interesting to see their target date to when they're going to stop the QE. But I think it will also be very important to note, to see what they talk about in terms of interest rates, forward guidance, as to when they're going to start raising rates, because tapering is not raising rates, right? So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, and all these other platforms below here. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.